My sister's 24 and had a huge tumor on her pancreas. She can't even heal well. I'm sorry to hear it. Because she's still running from herself, You know, Jennifer, I mean, this is like, it applies to what you're saying as well, Molly. Is this something I can do? Like, I need to write something so I can see your message properly. Something I can do, like, for anger. I was just going to say that in general, any kind of trouble or any kind of discomfort or anything, we can always, it's always possible to sort of be curious about it in the sense of like, what's this trying to tell me, you know? Because any kind of disharmony, it's always trying to bring us back to harmony. I don't know how else to say it. So it's always possible to sort of keep our ears open, you know? And then see if something might come up. If nothing comes up, then maybe it's just it can be the weather. It can be like, there are a few basic things also, yeah? Like there was some study done that 70% of people who go to see their general practitioner, like house doctor, are dehydrated. Okay, so the simple basic thing of drinking enough water, because that's what, like, all the organs need hydration. So that'll have a direct effect on emotions as well if someone is dehydrated, of course, because it drains energy, you know? So these are like some basic things. And water is like magic, really, you know? Take away half of all ailments by drinking enough water. So I can't say anything to that, Jennifer. Like, is there something you can do for anger? I don't know your circumstance. Yeah, you can always see it, you know? If we look at something, I don't mean that it's not some effort, yeah, or some technique at all or anything like that. But it's kind of like, let's say, the opposite of trying to suppress it, trying to, oh, this feels uncomfortable, let me push it under. I don't know how else to say it. This is my own take. Ever since I can remember, I always wanted to look at things. I never wanted to. It kind of terrified me, actually. I remember as a child, the idea of suppressing something. So I would always look at it. And there's always something there to be found or to be looked at. I mean, not always, obviously. Like, I don't know if not all ailments are trying to tell us something. Yeah. I understand. That's very helpful. I just realized that I'm running away from things instead of facing them. Yeah. So you have your answer. No, not at all, Jennifer. Not at all. Nice speaking with you. We've got nothing to lose facing things, you know? We've got everything to gain. And running away from things is what's going to make us feel less than content. If you think about it, even sort of the search for, like, in the spiritual sense for some kind of better situation, it's a running away from here, from right here. And even that sweetness of life, which is, that's what freedom really is, like the default position of life. Yeah, the joy of abundance of expression that is nature, is in nature. That's not in the future, it's not in the past. And so even what we're looking for, and we're looking for it thinking it might happen in the future under certain conditions, that's already like, we can't look for it, but if we were going to look for it somewhere, it's got to be right here. So facing things in the sense, like, even if there's a storm, there is so much there, there's so much energy there. That's it. Molly, I think we talked about this another time, but I would say, like, from my own personal experience, when something like that is going on, really the I don't need to tell you this, but the sincerity, the love that we have for someone close, and the wish that we have for them to get better, that's like, it's like, you could say it's like a cry of help on their behalf, you know. So that, yeah, that's I don't know, it has an effect. It's a natural response, it's our limit, you know. We can't encroach in someone else's space and tell them that they should do this or that, or, you know, look, not run from something, or not unless someone is truly open, and you know, but these adversities, they serve to reduce someone back to a state of openness, you know. I have read about the state of non-thinking. What is your take on that? I don't have any take on that. I think it's a bit confusing potentially to even talk about it, but okay, here goes. So thoughts are different to thinking. Yeah, we spend a hell of a lot of time thinking about stuff because we feel like we're going to resolve something by thinking. Yeah, we're giving what's at the root of that is that we're giving, where the mind has been given the task of solving problems. The mind has been given tasks, but the mind, which is the ability to think and to use language, is not meant for tasks. It's not meant to resolve things. It's meant to translate, like I don't know, someone who's in building a machine, or yeah, doing research into, I don't know, technology or whatever it is, medicine. It's the ability to translate some kind of intuitive spark into expression. Yeah, the all significant scientific breakthroughs, useful things, have come from some kind of intuition. You ask any of the scientists, those open enough not to praise themselves, you know, like the one that we hold in the most regard, Einstein, who'd be like the pinnacle of so-called intelligence, he would say there is something there. Like, I'm just listening, I'm just receptive to something. Yeah. Okay, so the mind is not meant for tasks. So this overthinking would then lead to, through so-called spiritual discourse, let's say, to some kind of opposite, to some kind of relief, which would be the achievement of the state of non-thinking. Yeah, which is just as much a nonsense, because it's like trying to put something over. So there's too much thinking going on. Okay, let's achieve the state of non-thinking, but you just take away this, and then then we can't talk about a state of non-thinking, because it's unnecessary to talk about that, because there is no state. There are no states, really. It's too immediate. Like, if you've ever had a moment of like full enjoyment, or just being fully immersed in something, yeah, I don't know, playing a sport, or a child playing with toy cars, whatever, it wouldn't even, like, it doesn't make sense to talk about a state of non-thinking, because look at that child, it's in a state of non-thinking. It's just some highfalutin spiritual specialness kind of term, you know. But the way we are wired, literally, as living beings, is that all our senses, yeah, and that's the senses we commonly speak about: seeing, hearing, tasting, and so on, and the sort of more metaphorical ones, let's say, our sense of appropriateness, our sense of justice, our sense of fairness, our sense of kindness, our sense of respect, our sense of everything. It's like all those senses, they kind of, it's just a way of saying, they keep us intact. They're like our principal modus operandi. Yeah. Look at animals. The way they move through their natural environment is with their senses. Yeah. So that's our feelings. If I have a sense of, I don't want to go down that dark alley because I have some sense that something's not right, then that's fucking protecting me right there, right? So that's a state of non-thinking, if you want to put it that way, but it just makes it too special. Not that it's like, again, with language, then I'm not trying to say it's, obviously not trying to say it's irrelevant, because like, oh, it's nothing special. That's actually how it gets seen. Yeah, that our senses, they're not important. They're like our feelings. They can't be trusted. They can't be relied on, and all this. So yeah, I don't have any take on that kind of thing. It's too special. It's, and I mean, what I mean by that is just like it would be some kind of achievement, and then I can praise myself that now I'm on the mountaintop and I've got some kind of handle on things that others don't. And yeah, so there's too much of this kind of palaver around anyway. So I certainly am not wanting to contribute to it. Okay, Jennifer, how do we see if the other person is truly open or just playing some mind game? You sense it, just like what I was saying just now. You sense it. If you feel some kind of happiness to go forward, or some kind of trust, or some kind of, it feels right to go forward towards someone, it's because that person is open. If there's some like not sure, then they're not open. Am I a spiritual teacher in the place you live? No, I'm not a spiritual teacher anywhere. I can't imagine anything more sad, in a way, than living with the delusion of being a spiritual teacher, like assuming some kind of state and being convinced and then misleading others. Do all people deemed as spiritual teachers are bad? I think there's a big difference if someone would call themselves a spiritual teacher or others call them a spiritual teacher. That would be a big difference. And I think it's just a case by case, you know. It's kind of a misuse of language in a way, but I don't know if someone, I don't know, just to give an example, yeah, someone isn't a native English speaker, for example, and they don't know what other word to use, and then they call themselves a spiritual teacher. Can be innocent, I guess, but on the whole, no, it's really a delusion. But yeah, I think it'll get mixed up because a lot of people are talked about as being spiritual teachers, but they never called themselves a spiritual teacher. You understand what I mean? It's an important distinction. And there are a lot of people who, you know, like even just in non-duality, never mind spirituality, yeah, even just in non-duality, there are so many people, a lot of people who talk about it and who are not free. And there also, it's either an innocent thing, there's just been some assumption, but there will always be some pride attached with it, or it's just an outright power trip, you know. Like what I mean by innocent is like if someone's had some kind of an insight or some kind of a quote unquote awakening, which would be like a glimpse that's quite strong, and then they think, okay, now that's the end of whatever they say it is. Then it would just be jumping to conclusion, you know. Yeah, and then there are others who, those very people, and like within non-duality, who would say that certain people, who would discredit certain people because they don't talk in terms of, yeah, there are some well-known people that get discredited, for example, but who are very genuine and who are actually free. So it's a real tangle. It's pretty tangled up. Hey, Jennifer, it's tricky, this spiritual teacher topic. We have so many in India, and most of them arrogant and proud and looting Western people. Yeah. Yeah. But as well, so in India, there's also the thing, the term guru. Someone who is a music teacher, for example, will be called guru, right? But in the Western sense, the guru is the one who knows. It's a spiritual teacher in that sense. So it's also a language thing. And if somebody in India, for example, was genuine and would call themselves a spiritual teacher, it might just be because that's the term that's around, and okay, this seems to fit what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? In India, there are so many who will give you certificate of enlightenment in 1 week. Amazing. But Jennifer, there's also, like in the West also, there's a lot of nonsense as well, you know. And in this non-duality topic in YouTube, there's a lot of nonsense. There are conferences about non-duality. Yeah. What is that, really? Are we sitting together and talking about this as a conference? Like, what? You know? Anyway, there's a lot of, yeah. At least, yeah, certificate of enlightenment. Amazing. I'm gonna do some as well. hey, Christopher, who, for example, I'm not going to name any names. That's too many to mention also. You can always write to me if you want in private, and ask me about certain someone if you're not sure. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, in any case, my email address is in the about section of the channel. So you can always write me an email with any questions or anything. It's really about misconceptions, like getting rid of misconceptions will always solve an issue, yeah, or untangle things. And to find misconceptions, there has to be a degree of openness. There has to be an interest in finding them, because otherwise we're just adding new concepts on top of the entanglement that is there, the discomfort, the discontent that is there, and then we try and put a layer over it that seems peaceful, or yeah. Yeah, good question, Jennifer. What's enlightenment really? Why is it so important? It's like people are running after it. Yeah, it's a mistaken term. But okay. So enlightenment we're talking about the English word now, yeah? You have a historical era in Western culture, in Western history, called the Enlightenment, which is after the so-called Dark Ages, which was where the church ruled with like an iron grip. Yeah. And then it's considered some kind of an awakening to see like, oh, we are not the servants or the slaves of some vengeful and threatening God. Yeah. We ourselves are able to have we have curiosity, we have things to express, we are free in a sense. Yeah. So it was coming out of the so-called Dark Ages, this dominance of this looming religion, into the kind of the start of the scientific era. Yeah, that was called the Enlightenment. Okay, so the ability to think for oneself, dividing the church from the state, also. Yeah. So not letting religion dominate politics, for example, like how we organize society and so on. Okay. So enlightenment, it's kind of like, let's say, shining a light on something. I'm trying to express it as neutrally as possible, because the term itself is very loaded, and it's actually a misnomer for something that is already there. So think about for a minute nature as it is. Yeah, you go into some deep forest and look around. Would you say the forest is enlightened? No, you wouldn't. So there we have the difference between this term, which seems so important and it has some glow around it. Okay, so we know it's a misnomer. Yeah, and then you see the forest, the sense you get from that, that's what's really going on. That's the true freedom. Okay. But okay, what it's trying to express is to see that what we take to be true, which is a kind of which is an energy, which I would term ego, which is the consequence ultimately of putting humans at the center of things and at the top of things. Yeah, that creates a distorted reality. So it's kind of like a waking up from that, seeing through it, I guess, that's what it's trying to express. it's because putting humans at the top also makes everything is in relation to us. Yeah. And then you have this attachment to things as really things. Yeah, because it all comes from this divorce from nature. Like if we're at the top, or if we're the special ones, then we're automatically withdrawn or away from our source. Only figuratively speaking, it's not possible even, but we're kind of cut off from our nourishment, from that which nourishes us. So then we have to look for nourishment somewhere else. And where do we look for it? In recognition. Yeah. And it creates all kinds of dynamics of attachment to things. So the default state, which is one state, there we go. There is no state really, but the default way things are is relaxed. It's nature. And it's free. It's not the freedom would be freedom from ego, freedom from this need to look for nourishment somewhere else, other than through this channel which is already there by nature, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Why is it so important? People run after it is one thing. Why is it so important? It's just the ability to live a full life. It's how life wants to express. Is free. Life is free. If you think about energy, if you think about even the word life, what sense is what does that bring up? It's free. You can never say life isn't free, energy isn't free. So that's how it expresses freely. But to live a life according to the ego would be to not be free, seemingly. Yeah, to live an illusion. With all its attendant disappointments and so on. It's like people are running after it. Yeah, the running after it is usually, I mean, if there's like a sincere curiosity, there is a natural desire to be free, to throw off this burden, this unfree claiming. Yeah. But most of the time, people running after it is just the pursuit of becoming special. If I'm enlightened, then finally I will glow. People will see it. People will respect me. People will think I'm amazing. Yeah, that's the motivation for most people. And actually, people are from the real, what it's really trying to express, people are running away from, not towards at all. Because it's the end of self-importance. And that's not that then that's not to jump to unimportance. Yeah. But you know what I mean by self-importance. So it's kind of, that's not something that most people want to go towards, an end of self-importance.